articulate his observations about Indo-US relations, and also the areas of where we can really make an impact on the international settings, and the areas where there are some improvements might be needed, and also, if possible, Indo-American community when comes together where we can contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Khanderao-ji, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank FIIDS and my good friend Khanderao-ji for having given me this opportunity. I love to interact with people here because the organization that I represent in India is deeply committed to increasing, expanding our outface with people of Indian origin. And we greatly cherish many accomplishments. We recognize that people who are in politics, representing their people, like Congressman Raja, they carry with them enormous amount of challenge and responsibility. It's a matter of great accomplishment, but they also have a responsibility to give voice to aspirations of the people that they represent, contribute to their development. In Delhi, we recently had a large conference of congressmen, senators, mayors of people of Indian origin. And we recognize that being in politics, you have a tremendous amount of opportunity to contribute to the socio-economic development of the countries that you've chosen to live, and the opportunity to connect those countries with India, your motherland. So I would like to bring greetings to Congressman Raja from not only people of India but my own organization. You have a great responsibility, and I think India-US relations and the kind of contribution that you can make to this cause. I'll talk about it a little bit in greater detail. India-US, as you know, are leading democracies in the world. And if you trace the evolution of relationship between our two countries, at the popular level, because I said democracies, so a relationship must be defined by people. But ironically, even though at the level of people, there has been a great admiration. In India, almost everyone admires the great value of liberty, enterprise, freedom in America. Everybody wants to send his children to America. And in America also, there is a very high amount of goodwill rating for India. I was reading somewhere that almost 74% in a Gallup poll last year, 74% people in America are well disposed, are positively, favorably disposed towards India. So there is an enormous amount of goodwill in both countries, and yet you find that during the 60s, 70s, 80s, our relationship at the government level was very erratic. I'm using the word erratic because, in fact, the relationship was rather bad. But these legacy issues, and I don't want to get into it, it's a long topic, but fortunately the legacy issues are behind us. And today I can say there is a bipartisan support. Leave aside a few elements here and there, and those elements are here in America, and those elements are in India as well. There are people who would ascribe, attribute certain suspicions, certain motives, but happily they are in a small minority. The large number of people, both in India and America, are now solidly supportive of good relationship. At the political level, if I can say, in America itself, there is a bipartisan support. If Clinton brought this new phase of relationship between India and America, Bush further took it forward, and in Obama's time as well. So I think, and in whatever manner, as Khanderao-ji said, even with the Trump presidency, we find that this relationship is moving forward. So I think it is no longer dependent on personal whims and fancies. There is a very strong rationale. And what is the reason? The reason is there is an emerging geopolitical convergence. One, and two is rising stature of India on the global stage. The fact that India has emerged as the third largest economy in the world, many of you are aware, in the purchasing power parity terms, India's economy is the third largest in the world of the size of about $10 trillion. So I think it excites people, it excites different countries, and there is also a consequent admiration. One of our Prime Ministers, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, in fact, he had very famously described India-America relationship as being that of natural allies. But even if you accept the strategic convergence and the fact that we are natural allies, there is a lot of work which needs to be done. And we have to work very hard. In fact, President Trump himself has talked about that it is not something that can be taken as given. A lot of hard work is required to move it forward. Today, there are multiple dialogue mechanisms. Any sector that you can think of, there is an institutionalized dialogue mechanism. Many are headed at the ministerial level. We have a huge amount of trade. America is India's largest trading partner. If you take the trade in goods and services, it reaches up to about $130 billion, which is a large amount of money, figure from India's point of view. And yet it is believed that our trade has not realized its full potential. In defense field, we are cooperating. We signed LEMOA in 2016, which allows us to cooperate and provide logistic support to each other. But I think when we talk about defense cooperation, there is a certain coyness. There is a certain reluctance in India to be seen as part of any military alliance. And I think that needs to be clearly understood in America. That even though there is a natural alliance situation, the global geopolitical dynamics is pushing us closer together, and yet India cannot be taken to the stage where India would be seen as a military ally of America. So the reason why I'm pointing out is that if India does not fully come to the benchmark set up by America, then I don't think it should be regarded as any negativity, any drawback in the relationship. What one needs to do is that both countries need to show greater sensitivity to each other. And I think that is something that I find lacking at the moment. This relationship cannot be taken forward on a matter-of-fact kind of basis. We have a huge defense relationship, as I said. India has also started acquiring a lot of defense equipment from America. And this is a recent phenomenon. Actually, until about 10-15 years, our defense acquisition from America was rather limited. Today, we have about $15 billion worth of defense acquisition from America. If nuclear cooperation develops further, there is enormous opportunity of trade between America and India to go up further in the nuclear field as well. Now, about the sensitivities and about the need for creating greater understanding, the reason why I'm bringing this is that the people of Indian origin who have, who are so accomplished, who are doing so well, and it is not without reason that the people of Indian origin constitute, as an ethnic group, the most prosperous ethnic group. The highest per capita, highest aggregate household income is that of the Indian community. And curiously, in fact, the second ethnic group, which is far, far behind that of Indian, is the Chinese. If Indian have the figure of $100,000. The Chinese are just about half of that. So Indians have left everybody else far behind. Indians have great accomplishment. And this is an area where they can contribute to greater understanding. In politics particularly, as congressmen, senators, mayors, they are, of course, best placed to contribute to better relationship between US and India. India and America, there is this geopolitical dynamics which is pushing us together. And I'll talk about two issues. One is China. China is somehow, in the horizon. China is impacting on geopolitical interests of America in different parts of the world, and China is impacting on our core and immediate national interest. So I think both India and America are the affected parties. They need to come together. In fact, China's increasing assertiveness, increasing aggressiveness, I would say, is bringing India and China together. China has claims, conflicts with its neighbors. China has been bullying countries in its neighborhood, including us. In fact, we face the Chinese depredations of Chinese policies on a daily basis. In Asia, the common wisdom was that both India and China will grow simultaneously. While we have had no difficulty accepting China's rise, China is somehow very resentful of accepting India's rise on the global, and China will not allow us to play the rightful role on the global stage, on the Asian continent, and trying to build a noose around our neck insofar as our own region is concerned. So very clearly, we are very uncomfortable about Chinese intentions. And countries in the Indo-Pacific region, if you look at Southeast Asian countries, they're very, very uncomfortable about an overwhelming Chinese influence. And what is needed is for America and China, America and India, to play a role in causing a certain degree of requisite comfort to these countries. Now, the question to ask is to why should we do it? Why should America and India do it? Should we do it for the others only? Now, the maxim is that nobody does anything for the others. You only do it for yourself. There is a matter of national interest. Now, if you stretch it in medium to long-term interest, it will be in America's interest to ensure that maritime security, to ensure that geopolitically America's interests are safeguarded. India's interest is safeguarded if China is made to feel that its actions will not go uncontested, will not go unchallenged. Now, if you leave the field clear for China, China's assertiveness, China's aggressiveness will increase further, and this will have a very debilitating impact on the world stage. And you can see that play out not only in the Indo-Pacific region. You see that play out in Africa, and so many African leaders, in fact, openly talk about very assertive and very invasive, predatory economic policies followed by Chinese, and need for somebody else to step in. So there are different mechanisms. The other point, the other big problem that the world is facing, which is that of terrorism. And in fact, Prime Minister Modi, when he addressed the joint session of Parliament, he actually said that terrorism was the most urgent, the biggest problem facing this world. And this is again a problem which affects both our countries. You all know the kind of negative impact, the bombing of the World Trade Center. In India, we face the depredations of these terrorist elements who are very well networked all around on a daily basis. So I think it's extremely important from the security perspective that India and America come together, come closer together to fight this scourge, to fight this menace. Not only have an exchange of information, which our two countries are already doing, but you have to go beyond that. And even though India may be uncomfortable about joining military alliance, but there are many other ways. You don't have to become a military ally today. Today, we are not living in an all or nothing world. That was the dictum of the Cold War politics. In the Cold War, the two camps were very watertight, and you were either in this camp or you were in the other camp. Today, you don't need to be in such watertight camps. Every country is trying to optimize its relations with the whole set of countries. So, but the fact of the matter is that India and America need to work together closely for their own good and for the good of this world. And I believe very strongly that the good of the world, the interests of the world, somehow will, in the longer term, promote our own interest. In closing, I think India and America need to show greater maturity and confidence. We have to get rid of insecurities. That, you know, there are elements here and there are elements. There are people in India today who are trying to suggest that India is mortgaging its independence on foreign policy to America. That we cannot be strategically partner America. We cannot get strategically close to America without forsaking our independence. And I think that is a complete distortion of the fact. We can be very close and yet we can remain independent. We can be autonomous. So our autonomy, whether it's for America or for India, it does not have to be compromised, and yet we realize that in the long term, our interests are better served. So we have to get rid of these insecurities. There are elements in America who would suggest that no, we have to keep engaging certain countries, which is what characterized America's government level relationship for many years. It is very clear that engaging Pakistan has not served America's interests in that region, in Afghanistan. So I think somehow both India and America have to come together. They have to get rid of firmly of the past prejudices and remain extremely secure. Now, the reason why I'm saying security, insecurity, we have to get rid of our insecurity, because occasionally you see that. India buying missile defense equipment from Russia. Recent reports you must have seen, and which gave rise to comments by certain lawmakers in America that this could invite sanctions. Now, I think the level of our relationships, and we must understand that both countries need each other. India is a very large country, and a mistake that America made at one point in time of regarding India as a Soviet satellite, which it never was. Even in those days, India had very clear independence in foreign policy. So today, if India acquires certain defense equipment from Russia, which has been India's traditional supplier of defense equipment, we depended on Russia for so many of our spare parts, for so many of our defense needs. I don't think that takes away from the strength of our relationship. Likewise, Iran. We must understand, America must understand that Iran is one of the largest suppliers of crude oil to India. About 15% of our crude supply comes from Iran. And it cannot be shut off and shut on just because America has decided to reopen the nuclear deal with Iran. Now, we are not questioning America's decision. America has a sovereign right to do whatever it wants to. But America must also understand that just because America decides to disengage Iran, that it cannot expect that India, which is such a large country, will disregard its historic relationship. Those of you who have some sense of history understand that India's relationship with Persia goes back to millennium. I mean, goes back to hundreds of years. So it is not something that can be, like a tap, you put it on and you shut it off. So if there is a broad degree of understanding, if there is a broad degree of security and understanding between ourselves, there is a maturity and confidence that as between two friends don't begin to mistrust each other just because that friend has another friend. So I think that is extremely important. We need to show greater maturity, and I would say not only American side, in fact on Indian side also there are a lot of people who are all the time trying to create mischief, and I think we have to overcome their mischievous attempts. Thank you very much.
So retired diplomats are always better. They can talk truthful, right? Because I had invited the consul generals and ambassador quite a few times, and I always saw that they are so constrained to talk truthfully, right? So thanks, Ambassador Virendra Gupta ji, and it's very, I think he did a job very well done, very succinctly. The other most important thing that we are hosting first ever reception to Raja in Silicon Valley. So let's give him a big hand. After his talk, I would like to invite some community leaders to please make their comments.
Good evening, namaste. I am honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And Ambassador, it's an honor to be here. Khande Rao, I met him in Washington, D.C. at a FIIDS event, and he thought enough of me to invite me back. So thank you so much, Khande Rao, and thank you to Ajay ji, and Brigu ji, and Ashok ji for connecting me into this organization a little more. So I'm so honored to be here. I should tell you, Khande Rao said he was not sure whether I would be elected to Congress. So, in fact, when I was traveling around Illinois, I would often get asked the question, what does Raja Krishnamurthy mean? Where did you get that funny name and what does it mean? So I said, it's very simple. Translated from an ancient Indian language, it means Congressman for the 8th District of Illinois. So I was auspiciously named. I was elected to Congress in November 2016. You may be wondering, where do you represent? Which district is this? This happens to be all the west and northwest suburbs of Chicago. So all the suburbs adjacent to and west of O'Hare International Airport, including the runways but not the terminal. We can talk about that later. But you may be very interested in this district. It's the 8th Congressional District of Illinois. It has one of the highest concentrations of Indian Americans of any congressional district anywhere in the country. It has so many desis that I'll just give you a flavor for what life is like there. My wife Priya and I live there in Schaumburg, Illinois, with our 3 beautiful children. The oldest son, his name is Vijay. Vijay was on a basketball team of 8 people. 5 of the 8 were desi, and both coaches were desi. And so somebody came up to me, Ambassador, and said, Raja, that team must be very bad. And I said, no, 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 you don't understand. Every other team in this league looks the same. So it's very fair and balanced, just like Fox News. And so that is what life is like in the 8th Congressional District of Illinois. Schaumburg itself is 30% Desi, just to give you a sense of the population there. And so it's only appropriate that this district elect an Indian American to the United States Congress. And so I have been serving in Congress for a year and a half. I was elected in November 2016 with about 60% of the vote. So I won, obviously, the vast majority of, thank you. I won the vast majority of Democrats, a large majority of independents, and of course I won a lot of Republicans because the district is not 60% Democratic. So I pride myself on that, and I think I have a glimpse into not only how my party views politics and policy, but also India-US relations. And so I'll segue to my second point, which is this, which is I believe in my heart that the US-India relationship transcends politics at this point. Completely yes. That was not always the case. We all know that in this room. But it's gone to new heights with every single administration, starting with Bill Clinton, then with George W. Bush, then with Barack Obama, and now President Trump. And to his credit, President Trump is trying to build this relationship in a positive direction. And so I'm happy to be a cooperative partner in my own modest way in the US Congress. And so some of the things that I've been doing to try to promote this relationship, I am an original sponsor of the resolution calling on the United Nations to make India a permanent member of the Security Council. I think you probably agree with me. It's about time. This is just recognizing reality. A second issue that I care very much about is H-1Bs. I'm probably the most vocal member of Congress, or one of the most vocal members on this issue, because H-1Bs obviously affect India. They are Indian nationals, but they affect America because they are an integral part of the American economy. And we can talk about that later. I'm also on a from a cultural standpoint, I was the one who carried the Diwali resolution this year in Congress. I was very happy to. And I have also gone to India now twice on official trips as a United States Congressman. I should tell you, the first time I went to India as a US Congressman was in August of last year. The Foreign Ministry did a wonderful job of arranging numerous meetings, but the highlight of my trip was a one-on-one 30-minute meeting with Prime Minister Modi. So I went to his beautiful official residence, and I said, Prime Minister Modi, you tout the principle of make in India. Make in India. You should know that I was born in a hospital not far from this beautiful official residence. So you could say that I was made in India too. And indeed, I suspect many of us in this room were made in India, but we came of age in this country, and we're making America better together. Together. And that is the key point that I want to emphasize, which is that Indian Americans, as the ambassador rightly said, are the bridge. They comprise the bridge from India to the United States. They are the glue that holds this relationship tight, and they are the path forward for making this relationship even stronger. And I think Ambassador said some of the key statistics, but let me just tell you some of the other interesting statistics about your success as an Indian American community. You have the highest household income and per capita income, but on top of that, 70% of Indian Americans have a four-year college degree as compared to 33% for the rest of the population. 50% of all hotel, motel activity is owned by Indians. 15% of all Silicon Valley startups were by Indian Americans. 10% of all physicians are Indian Americans. My wife is an anesthesiologist. The joke is that we both put people to sleep. And so I can tell you that your influence comes through your hard work and your success in this country. In fact, several times during my own campaign, I would meet somebody and I'd say, "Hi, how are you? I'm Raja Krishnamurthy." And he says, "Hi, Raja, I'm going to vote for you." I said, "Why?" And he'd say, "My doctor, Dr. Patel, told me to vote for you, so I'm going to be voting for you." And that is the kind of outsized influence that Indian Americans have. And they have a very good reputation, which carries all of us forward. Now, I'm one of 4 Indian Americans in the US Congress. I affectionately call us the Samosa Caucus. You're looking at one of the samosas. Now, we are a small, but a spicy and powerful caucus. But we need to expand that caucus. We have to expand it. Because just as we want to strengthen the ties between India and the United States, we want to expand that bridge. And a key component of that bridge are elected officials of Indian origin. So I would just close with one comment, and then I'd love to hear what everyone else has to say. I encourage everyone in this room to consider at least a season of public service, if not a career of public service. And to encourage your children and grandchildren to do the same. You know, when I was growing up, my father said, "Raja, you can do anything you want to do in life." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, you can be a civil engineer, a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer, or computer engineer." I ended up getting a BS in mechanical engineering. Of course, I do the BS part now, not the engineering. But the point is this: for our children and grandchildren, for the sake of our country, for the sake of our relationships with other countries, including India, more of us have to go into politics. Okay? I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. I hope that you, your children, your grandchildren will consider it. Maybe they'll run for city council. Maybe they'll run for state house. Maybe they'll run for state senate. Maybe even one of them will run for the United States Congress. The point is that I hope you will encourage your children and grandchildren and your families to think about the future, and in addition to getting that BS in mechanical engineering, to do other things as well. And so with that, I just want to close with my favorite saying, which is that yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today's a gift. That's why we call it the present. And so I'm honored and blessed to be with you here for a few short minutes of your precious time, to celebrate you, but to celebrate India and the United States, and to see how we can make the world a better place through this relationship. So thank you so much, and God bless you. Thank you.